The guest bedroom door doesn't latch properly. I noticed it the second day I moved in, 3 weeks ago. The striker plate sits a 1/4 inch too high, so unless you pull the handle up while pushing the door shut, it just rests against the frame. A good shove from the hallway and it swings right open. I didn't mention it to my son Derek or his wife Vanessa. Why would I? I'm a facilities consultant. I've spent 30 years evaluating safety systems in hotels, care facilities, and corporate campuses. I notice things like misaligned door hardware the way other people notice the weather. It's reflex, not complaint. Besides, I wasn't planning to stay long. A torn meniscus and a botched outpatient procedure left me with limited mobility for 6 weeks, and Derek insisted I recuperate here instead of my apartment downtown. "Dad, you can't do stairs right now," he'd said on the phone, his voice tight with what I mistook for concern. "We've got the guest room on the first floor. It makes sense." It did make sense, logically, practically. I should have trusted my gut instead of his logic. The house is a 4-bedroom colonial in a suburb that tries too hard. Every lawn is the same height. Every car is German or Japanese and less than 3 years old. The neighbors smile with their mouths closed and wave from their driveways but never walk over to talk. It's the kind of place where people measure success by the size of their kitchen islands and the brand of their outdoor grills. Derek fits here perfectly. He always wanted to fit somewhere. As a kid, he changed his interests based on whatever group he was trying to impress. Soccer, then lacrosse, then debate team, then student government. Nothing stuck. Nothing came from the inside. He moved through identities like rental cars, returning each one when the lease ran out. Vanessa is different. She doesn't adapt to her surroundings. She curates them. Within 6 months of marrying Derek, she'd replaced his furniture, his wardrobe, and most of his friends. She has a way of tilting her head when she listens that makes people feel heard, but her eyes stay flat. I've seen that look before, in corporate attorneys and hospital administrators, people who've learned to simulate empathy because it's useful. I'm furniture to her, a temporary fixture, something to be managed until it can be removed. The first week was fine. Derek came home from work around 6, we'd have dinner, he'd ask about my physical therapy appointments. Vanessa cooked elaborate meals and set the table with cloth napkins. She'd ask about my consulting work, my old projects, my years in the industry. She seemed genuinely interested. I didn't trust it then either, but I played along. The second week, things shifted. Derek started coming home later. Vanessa's questions became less frequent, her smiles more mechanical. They had whispered conversations in the kitchen that stopped when I wheeled myself into the room. I'd catch her looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something between calculation and impatience. On Thursday of the second week, I overheard them in the hallway outside my room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. The walls are thin, and they weren't being particularly quiet. "How much longer?" Vanessa's voice sharp and low. "The doctor said 6 weeks total. We're halfway." "That's 3 more weeks, Derek. 3. I know. But we can't just... Can't just what? He's your father, not a boarder. This is our house." A pause. Then Derek, quieter. "I'll talk to him about next steps." Next steps. Like I was a project phase. I didn't say anything. I've learned over the years that people reveal more when they think you're not paying attention. In facilities work, you watch how staff behave when they think no one's monitoring the cameras. That's when you see the real safety gaps, the real problems. Same principle applies to family. By week 3, I'd started noticing other things, small things that most people would dismiss. The medical alert bracelet Derek insisted I wear stopped holding a charge. I mentioned it once. Vanessa said she'd order a replacement. She never did. The front door, which had a smart lock with a keypad, started having connectivity issues. I tested it one afternoon when they were both out. The entry log showed gaps, hours at a time where no activity was recorded, even though I'd heard the door open and close multiple times. The hallway camera, a sleek little device Vanessa had installed for security, was angled just slightly away from my bedroom door. Not obviously. Just enough that someone could enter or exit my room without being clearly visible on the feed. I didn't confront them. I just started paying closer attention. On Tuesday of the third week, I wheeled myself into Derek's home office while he was at work. The door was unlocked, which was unusual. Derek's always been protective of his space. Even as a kid, I used to joke that he'd padlock his diary if he kept one. His laptop was open on the desk, screen dark but not shut down. I touched the trackpad. No password prompt. It opened straight to his email. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed of it either. When someone's behavior changes this drastically, there's always a reason. And in my experience, the reason is usually financial. I was right. The first email I saw was from a collections agency. Second notice for an outstanding balance of $47,000 on a business line of credit. The next email was from his brokerage firm, explaining that his margin call needed to be satisfied within 3 business days, or his positions would be liquidated. I scrolled back further. 6 months of financial chaos. High-risk options trades, most of them losses. Cash advances on credit cards to cover other credit cards. A personal loan from someone named Jay Tennant with an interest rate that would make a loan shark blush. And then I found the email that made everything clear. It was from Vanessa, sent to Derek's work address 3 weeks ago, the day before they'd invited me to stay with them. Subject line, solution. Body text. Talk to Mitchell again. He says if we can establish need, the process is straightforward. Cognitive decline, mobility issues, safety concerns, any of those work. Guardianship gives us access to accounts and decision-making authority. Your father's assets are more than enough to cover what we need, and then some. We just have to document that he can't manage on his own anymore. The fall was perfect timing. I read it 3 times. Then I checked the sent folder. Derek's response, "Are you sure? This feels wrong." Vanessa's reply, "It's not wrong. It's practical. He's going to need care eventually anyway. This way we're prepared. And honestly, Derek, we're out of options. This is happening whether you're comfortable with it or not." Derek's final message, "Okay, I trust you." I closed the laptop and wheeled myself back to my room. They weren't trying to help me recover. They were trying to establish incompetence. Every insistence that I stay in bed, every suggestion that I wasn't ready for physical therapy yet, every concerned look when I forgot a word or lost my train of thought, all of it was groundwork. I'd walked into this willingly. I'd smiled and nodded and thanked them for their hospitality. I'd made it easy. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the past 3 weeks. The pieces fit together now. The disabled smart lock meant no reliable record of who entered the house or when. The angled camera meant no proof of who came into my room. They were building a narrative. Elderly man, recovering from injury, increasingly confused and helpless. It would be easy to get a doctor to sign off on cognitive concerns. A few missed appointments, a few confused moments, maybe a small incident that suggested I wasn't safe alone. And then they'd have exactly what Vanessa's email described. Access, authority. My accounts, my assets, my entire financial life handed over because I couldn't be trusted to manage it myself. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger is noisy and unfocused. What I felt was colder than that. I felt clarity. I've spent 3 decades identifying vulnerabilities in systems, security gaps, access points, response time failures. I know how to see what's broken and how to exploit it. That skill set doesn't stop being useful just because the system in question is a family instead of a building. They thought I was weak, isolated, an easy target. They were wrong. I just had to be patient. Let them think they were in control. Let them make their move, and when they did, I'd be ready. While you're here, hit the hype button. Don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? The door incident happened on Friday night. I was in bed by 10, same as every night since I'd arrived. The leg brace made sleeping awkward. I had to stay on my back with my knee slightly elevated. I'd adapted to it, but I still woke up multiple times each night, uncomfortable and restless. Around 11:30, I woke to the sound of voices in the hallway, low, indistinct. I couldn't make out words, just tone, Vanessa's clipped consonants, someone else's deeper murmur. I assumed it was Derek. He'd been coming home late most nights, smelling like bourbon and aftershave, moving through the house like he was trying not to wake anyone. But this voice was different, unfamiliar. I turned my head toward the door. It was open, not wide, maybe 6 inches, just enough to let a slice of hallway light fall across the carpet. I tried to sit up. The brace locked my knee at the wrong angle, and my upper body strength wasn't what it used to be. I managed to prop myself on one elbow, breathing hard, heart rate climbing. The voices stopped. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, not trying to be quiet anymore. I reached for the bedside lamp. My hand hit the base and knocked it sideways. It didn't fall, but the shade tilted, throwing shadows across the wall. The footsteps stopped just outside the door. I could see a shadow now, a shape blocking the light from the hallway. Taller than Vanessa, broader. I tried to speak. My throat was dry. Nothing came out but a rasp. The door moved, not much. Another inch, just enough. And then I heard her voice. Vanessa. Close. Right on the other side of the door. Just make it look natural. The shadow shifted. A pause. Long enough that I thought maybe I'd misheard. Maybe I was confused, disoriented from sleep and pain medication. Then the shadow stepped back. Voices again, sharper this time. Vanessa's rising slightly, frustrated. The other voice answering, firm but quiet. I couldn't make out the words. A door closed somewhere else in the house. Heavy footsteps receded toward the front of the building. Another door, the front door, I thought, opened and shut. Silence. I waited. My heart was slamming against my ribs. My hands were shaking. The door to my room stayed open. I counted to 60, then another 60. No one came back. Finally, I managed to sit up fully. I grabbed the crutch leaning against the nightstand and used it to pull myself upright. My legs screamed in protest, but I didn't care. I hobbled to the door and pulled it shut. This time I didn't let it just rest against the frame. I leaned my weight into it, forced the handle up, and heard the latch click into place. Then I wedged the crutch under the handle. I made it back to bed and sat there, breathing too fast, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Someone had been in the hallway, someone who wasn't Derek. Vanessa had spoken to them. She'd told them to make something look natural, and then they'd left. Why? I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At 6:30, I heard movement in the kitchen. Vanessa making coffee, the familiar sounds of her morning routine, the grinder, the kettle, the clink of a spoon against ceramic. I stayed in bed. At 7, there was a knock on my door. "Dad?" Derek's voice, muffled. "You awake?" I didn't answer. Another knock. "Dad, we're heading out soon. Vanessa made breakfast if you're hungry." I waited until I heard his footsteps retreat. Then I got up, removed the crutch from under the door handle, and opened it. The hallway was empty, bright, sunlight slanting through the window at the far end, illuminating dust motes in the air. Everything looked normal, safe. I made my way to the bathroom, moving slowly, and locked the door behind me. I ran the shower hot and stood under it longer than I needed to, letting the heat work into my shoulders and back. When I came out, Vanessa was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled. "Good morning. I made French toast. Still warm if you want some." I nodded. "Thanks." She slid a plate across the counter toward me. "How'd you sleep?" "Fine." "No pain?" "Manageable." She watched me for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she went back to her phone. I ate in silence. The French toast was perfect. Crisp edges, soft center, dusted with powdered sugar. Vanessa's cooking was always perfect. Everything about her was carefully constructed to appear effortless. Derek came into the kitchen, adjusting his tie. He looked tired. There were shadows under his eyes, and his collar was slightly wrinkled. "Morning, Dad. You need anything today? I can swing by at lunch if—" "I'm fine." He hesitated. "Okay, well, we'll be back around 6. Call if you need anything." They left together, Vanessa's heels clicking on the hardwood, Derek's keys jingling. The front door closed. The house went quiet. I waited 5 minutes. Then I went to Derek's office. The laptop was closed this time. I opened it. Password prompt. Of course. I tried a few obvious combinations. His birthday, Vanessa's birthday, their wedding date. Nothing worked. I sat back and looked around the room. Derek wasn't creative. He never had been. His passwords in college were always variations of the same theme, something personal, something easy to remember. I tried the name of his childhood dog. Bingo. The desktop loaded. I went straight to his email and searched for messages from Vanessa containing the word tonight. I found one from 2 days ago. He's not going to agree to the evaluation willingly. Mitchell says we need documentation of an incident. Something that justifies immediate action. I've been thinking about how to make that happen. Let me handle it. Just make sure you're out of the house Friday night. Dinner with clients, late meeting, whatever. Be gone by 10 and don't come back until I text you. Derek's response. I don't like this. Vanessa. You don't have to like it. You just have to let me do what needs to be done. Derek. What exactly are you planning? Vanessa. The less you know, the better. Trust me. I read it twice, then I checked Derek's calendar. Friday night. Dinner. Clients. Downtown. Scheduled from 8 p.m. to midnight. Except Derek had been home by 11:30. I'd heard him come in, heard him and Vanessa talking in their bedroom, heard the tension in their voices. He'd come back early. And whatever Vanessa had planned, it hadn't happened the way she'd expected. I closed the laptop and sat there, staring at the wall. She'd tried to stage something, an incident, something that would justify forcing me into a medical evaluation, maybe even an emergency intervention, and she'd brought someone into the house to help her do it. But Derek had come home, and whoever she'd brought with her had left instead of following through, which meant this wasn't over. She'd try again. I stood up and went back to my room. I needed to think. I needed to plan. But first, I needed proof. The house was silent when I woke up Friday morning. Too silent. I got out of bed and checked the hallway. Derek's car was gone. So was Vanessa's. I found a note on the kitchen counter, written in Vanessa's precise handwriting. Had to leave early for a work thing. Back tonight. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I crumpled the note and threw it away. They were regrouping, planning their next move, and they'd left me alone in the house, either because they trusted me not to snoop, or because they wanted me to think they trusted me. I spent the morning going through Derek's office again. This time, I wasn't looking for financial records. I was looking for communications, anything that would tell me what they were planning next. I found it in a deleted email folder that Derek apparently didn't know could be recovered. From Vanessa, sent yesterday evening at 11:47 p.m. Hargrave was a bust. He knows too much and won't touch it. We need another option. I'm done playing nice. If your father won't cooperate, we'll have to force the issue. I've been looking into emergency interventions. If there's a credible threat to his safety, or to others, we can get a court order for immediate evaluation and temporary guardianship. We just need the right incident. Derek's response, sent at 11:52 p.m. What kind of incident, Vanessa? The kind that makes him look dangerous, erratic, confused, something that makes a judge sign off without asking too many questions. Derek, I don't like this. Vanessa, you don't have to like it. You just have to stay out of my way. I printed the emails and added them to my folder. An emergency intervention, a court order. They were going to stage something that would make me look like a threat. I needed to leave now, before they came back and set whatever plan they'd devised into motion. I packed quickly. Clothes, medications, documents, laptop, everything that mattered fit into 2 bags. I called an Uber and waited by the front window, watching for the car. While I waited, I thought about what came next. I couldn't just run. That would make me look guilty, unstable, exactly what they wanted. I needed to control the narrative. I needed witnesses, documentation, proof that they were the threat, not me, and I needed leverage. Real leverage. The kind that would make them stop permanently. The Uber arrived. I grabbed my bags and left without looking back. I gave the driver an address 3 blocks from my apartment building. I didn't want a record of where I was actually going. When he dropped me off, I walked the rest of the way, keeping to side streets, moving as quickly as my knee would allow. My apartment looked exactly the way I'd left it 6 weeks ago. Dust on the counters, mail piled up inside the door, but it was mine, my space, safe. I locked the door behind me and sat down on the couch, breathing hard. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek. Where are you? I didn't respond. Another text. Dad, Vanessa said you weren't at the house when she got home. Are you okay? I turned off my phone. I needed time. Time to think. Time to plan. I spent the next hour going through everything I'd collected. Emails, financial records, smart lock logs, medical documentation. I had evidence of their intent, their financial desperation, their attempts to manipulate the system. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed something bigger. Something public. Something that would destroy their credibility so thoroughly that no attorney would touch their case and no judge would take them seriously. And then I remembered something Vanessa had said in one of her emails. The fundraiser is in 2 weeks. All the right people will be there. We need to look successful, stable, like we have everything under control. I pulled out my laptop and searched for upcoming charity events in the area. I found it. A gala benefiting the Children's Hospital. Black tie, $500 tickets. Hosted at the Downtown Convention Center. The guest list included local politicians, business leaders, and media. Vanessa was on the host committee. Her name was listed prominently on the event website, along with Derek's. They were using the fundraiser to maintain their image, to look like generous, successful pillars of the community, which meant they couldn't afford a scandal there. Not in front of that crowd. That's where I'd make my move. I bought a ticket online. Then I started planning exactly what I'd say, what I'd show, and how I'd make sure everyone in that room knew the truth about Derek and Vanessa Brennan. I spent the weekend preparing. I created a presentation, simple, clear, impossible to misunderstand, financial records showing Derek's debt, emails showing Vanessa's manipulation, smart lock logs showing the stranger who'd entered their house the night they'd tried to stage an incident. I didn't include everything. I didn't need to. Just enough to raise questions. Just enough to make people doubt. On Monday, my phone started ringing. Derek. Vanessa. Unknown numbers that were probably attorneys they'd hired. I didn't answer any of them. On Tuesday, someone knocked on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. A man in a cheap suit, holding a clipboard. Process server, probably. I didn't answer. He knocked again. Waited. Finally slid something under the door and left. I picked it up. a petition for emergency guardianship, filed by Derek Brennan on behalf of his father, citing concerns about cognitive decline and risk to self. The hearing was scheduled for Friday, 2 days before the fundraiser. They were trying to get ahead of me, lock me down before I could expose them. I read through the petition carefully. It was full of lies, claims that I'd been confused, erratic, unable to care for myself. A doctor's statement, not from Dr. Patel, from someone I'd never heard of, suggesting possible dementia. They'd found a doctor willing to sign off without ever examining me. I called Patricia, my attorney. "They filed," I said. "I saw. We need to respond. Can you come to my office tomorrow?" "I'll be there." We spent Wednesday afternoon drafting a response. Patricia was thorough, meticulous. She included Dr. Patel's evaluation, my financial records, and a declaration from me explaining that I was competent, capable, and being targeted for financial reasons. "The hearing's going to be tough," she said. "Emergency petitions get more leeway. The judge will want to err on the side of caution." I understand. But if we can show that this is financially motivated, that'll help. Judges don't like being used to settle family disputes over money. She filed the response electronically that evening. On Thursday, I got a call from an unknown number. This time, I answered. "Mr. Brennan?" A woman's voice. Professional. "This is Judge Carolyn Reeves's clerk. The judge would like to schedule a brief informal meeting with you before tomorrow's hearing. Would you be available to come to her chambers at 9 a.m.? "Yes." "Great. See you then." I hung up and sat there, trying to figure out what that meant. Patricia called me back an hour later. "Did you get a call from the judge's clerk?" "Yes." "That's good. It means she's taking your response seriously. She wants to assess you herself before making a decision." "What should I expect?" "Just be yourself. Answer her questions honestly. Don't get defensive or emotional. Show her you're exactly what you claim to be, a competent adult who's being manipulated." I barely slept that night. Friday morning, I dressed the same way I had for the appointment with Hargrave. Clean, professional, steady. Judge Reeves's chambers were in the county courthouse, a limestone building downtown with high ceilings and marble floors. I arrived 15 minutes early and waited on a bench outside her office. At 9 a.m. exactly, the clerk opened the door. "Mr. Brennan? The judge will see you now." I followed her inside. Judge Reeves was a black woman in her mid-50s with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Mr. Brennan, thank you for coming." "Of course." She folded her hands on the desk. "I've reviewed the petition and your response. I have some questions." "I'm happy to answer them." "Your son claims you've been confused, forgetful, and unable to manage daily tasks. True or false?" "False." "You're recovering from a knee injury. How has that affected your ability to live independently?" "It's limited my mobility temporarily. I've been using a crutch and attending physical therapy. I'm on track for full recovery in 3 weeks." "Your son also claims you've been erratic and made concerning statements." "I haven't. I believe this petition was filed because my son and his wife are facing financial difficulties and see my assets as a solution." She raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation." "I have documentation." I pulled out my folder and handed it to her. She read through it silently. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten when she got to the emails. Finally, she closed the folder and looked at me. "Mr. Brennan, I'm going to deny the petition for emergency guardianship. Based on what I've seen, you're clearly competent, and this appears to be a family dispute over finances, not a legitimate concern about your welfare." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you." "However," she continued, "I'm going to issue a written order explaining my reasoning, and I'm going to recommend that your son and daughter-in-law seek family counseling rather than legal action. If they file another petition without substantial new evidence, I'll consider it harassment." She stood. I stood. "Good luck, Mr. Brennan." I left the courthouse feeling lighter than I had in weeks. They'd lost. The judge had seen through them. I was safe. But I wasn't done. Tomorrow was the fundraiser, and I was going to make sure everyone there knew exactly who Derek and Vanessa Brennan really were. The gala started at 7 p.m. I arrived at 6:30 while staff were still setting up and early guests were beginning to trickle in. The convention center's main ballroom was enormous, decorated with white tablecloths, crystal centerpieces, and soft lighting. A string quartet played near the entrance. Waiters circulated with champagne. I checked in at the registration table. The volunteer looked at my name on the list and smiled. "Mr. Brennan, welcome. Your table is number 12. I thanked her and made my way into the ballroom. Table 12 was near the front, close to the stage where speeches and presentations would happen later. I wasn't surprised. Vanessa would have arranged for good seating. Image was everything to her. I didn't sit down. Instead, I walked the perimeter of the room, getting a sense of the layout. Exits, sight lines, where the AV booth was located. I'd prepared a simple USB drive. On it, a PDF of the financial records, the emails, the smart lock logs. Not everything I had, but enough. Enough to raise questions. I'd already contacted the event organizer earlier in the week, explaining that I had a brief presentation about the importance of elder financial protection that I'd like to share during the evening's program. I'd framed it as educational, relevant to the hospital's mission of protecting vulnerable populations. She'd agreed, 5 minutes, right before the main speaker. At 6:50, Derek and Vanessa walked in. Vanessa was wearing a floor-length black gown, her hair swept up, diamond earrings catching the light. Derek wore a tuxedo that fit too well to be rented. They looked perfect, successful, untouchable. Vanessa saw me first. She stopped so abruptly that Derek bumped into her. Her face went white, then red, then carefully blank. She said something to Derek. He turned and looked at me. His expression was harder to read. Shock, maybe guilt. They started walking toward me. I stood my ground. Vanessa reached me first. "What are you doing here?" "Attending a fundraiser. You need to leave." "I bought a ticket. I have as much right to be here as you do." Derek stepped closer. "Dad, please, don't do this." "Don't do what?" "Whatever you're planning. Just don't." I looked at him. Really looked at him. He looked exhausted, defeated, like he knew what was coming and couldn't stop it. "You filed a guardianship petition against me," I said quietly. "You tried to have me declared incompetent so you could take my money and pay off your debts. And when that didn't work, you came here tonight to pretend everything's fine." Vanessa stepped between us. "Keep your voice down." "Or what?" She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. "Or I'll have security remove you. You're not well. Everyone here will understand." "I'm perfectly well. Judge Reeves agreed. She denied your petition this morning." Vanessa's eyes went cold. "That doesn't matter. We'll file again. We'll find another judge. Another doctor. You think you've won, but you haven't. We'll keep going until what?" I interrupted. "Until you destroy me? Until you take everything I've worked for and use it to cover your husband's gambling debts?" People were starting to look. A couple at a nearby table glanced over, curious. Derek grabbed my arm. "Dad, stop. Please." I pulled away. "Don't touch me." He stepped back, hands raised. Okay, just let's go outside. Let's talk." "There's nothing to talk about." Vanessa's expression shifted. She turned to the couple who'd been watching and smiled apologetically. "I'm so sorry. My father-in-law has been having some confusion lately. We're working on getting him the help he needs." The woman smiled sympathetically. The man nodded. I felt a surge of anger so intense I had to clench my fists to keep control. "I'm not confused," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I'm the target of a financial scam orchestrated by my son and his wife." Vanessa's smile didn't waver, but her eyes were furious. "Security," she called softly to a man in a suit standing near the entrance. He started walking toward us. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and held it up. "Everything I'm saying is documented. Financial records, emails, communication logs. All of it proving that they tried to have me declared incompetent so they could access my assets." The security guard arrived. "Is there a problem?" "This man is confused and disruptive," Vanessa said smoothly. "He needs to leave." "I have a ticket," I said, holding it up. "I'm a registered guest, and I'm scheduled to give a presentation during tonight's program." The guard looked uncertain. He glanced at Vanessa, then at me. "Let me check with the organizer," he said. He walked away. Derek leaned close. "Dad, please? You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference." The event organizer appeared, a trim woman in her 40s wearing a navy dress. She looked stressed. "Mr. Brennan? There seems to be some confusion. Mrs. Brennan says you weren't authorized to give a presentation." "I spoke with you last week. You approved 5 minutes for a talk on elder financial protection." She frowned. "I don't remember that conversation." "Check your email. I sent you a confirmation." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through messages. Her frown deepened. "I don't see anything." I'd sent the email from a temporary account that I'd deleted yesterday. I'd planned for this. "It doesn't matter," I said. "I have important information that your guests need to hear. Information about how families exploit vulnerable seniors for financial gain." Vanessa stepped forward. "He's not well. He's been experiencing confusion and paranoia. We've been trying to get him help, but he refuses treatment." The organizer looked between us, clearly uncomfortable. "I think it's best if you leave, Mr. Brennan." "I paid for my ticket. We'll refund it." The security guard moved closer. "Sir, I need you to come with me." I didn't move. "I'm not leaving." "Then I'll have to escort you out." He reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't touch me." Derek grabbed my shoulder. "Dad, stop." I spun toward him, and the sudden movement sent a shock of pain through my knee. I stumbled. The security guard caught my arm to steady me, and I yanked away hard enough that I lost my balance completely. I went down, hitting the floor with a crash that rattled the nearby tables. The room went silent. I lay there for a moment, breathing hard, knee screaming. Then I pushed myself up onto one elbow and looked around. Every eye in the room was on me. 100 people, all staring. Vanessa's face was a mask of concern. "Someone call an ambulance." "I don't need an ambulance," I said. Derek knelt beside me. "Dad, you're hurt." "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. My knee felt like it was on fire, and my hands were shaking from adrenaline, but I wasn't leaving, not yet. The event organizer spoke quietly to the security guard. He nodded and pulled out his radio. I had maybe 2 minutes before they removed me by force. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and held it up again. "Everything you need to know is on here. Financial fraud, manipulation, an attempted guardianship scam, all documented." I threw it toward the nearest table. It skidded across the tablecloth and stopped in front of a woman in a red dress. She picked it up, looking confused. "Read it," I said. "Share it. Make sure everyone knows who Derek and Vanessa Brennan really are." Vanessa moved fast. She snatched the drive from the woman's hand before she could react. "This is just more confusion," Vanessa said, her voice shaking slightly. "He's not well. He doesn't know what he's saying." The woman looked uncertain. Others were murmuring now, whispers spreading through the room. 2 more security guards arrived. One helped me to my feet while the other spoke quietly to the event organizer. I was out of time. But I'd done what I came to do. I'd planted the seed, made people question. Even if they believed Vanessa's story, they'd remember this moment. They'd wonder. The guards escorted me toward the exit. As we passed table 12, I saw a man in his 60s lean toward his wife and whisper something. She nodded, her expression troubled. Derek followed us out, Vanessa close behind. In the lobby, the guards released me. "You need to leave the premises," one of them said. "I'm going," Derek stepped forward. "I'll drive you home." "No? Dad?" I said no. I walked toward the exit, moving carefully, favoring my good leg. Every step hurt, but I kept my face neutral. Behind me, I heard Vanessa's voice. "This is your fault. You should have handled him weeks ago." Derek's response was too quiet to hear. I pushed through the glass doors and stepped out into the cool night air. A taxi was idling at the curb. I climbed in and gave the driver my address. As we pulled away, I looked back at the convention center. Derek and Vanessa stood in the lobby, visible through the glass walls. They were arguing, their body language sharp and tense. I'd humiliated them, in front of everyone who mattered to them. I'd made them look like liars and manipulators. It wasn't enough, not yet, but it was a start. I spent Saturday icing my knee and monitoring the fallout. By noon, I'd received 3 phone calls from people who'd been at the gala. 2 were former colleagues who'd heard about the incident and wanted to make sure I was okay. The third was from the woman in the red dress who'd briefly held my USB drive. "Mr. Brennan, this is Amanda Cartwright. We met briefly last night. Well, you threw a USB drive at my table. I remember. I wanted to ask you about what you said, about your son and daughter-in-law. What do you want to know? Is it true? The financial fraud, the guardianship attempt?" "Yes." A pause. "I'm a reporter for the local business journal. I'd like to talk to you, on the record." I thought about it. A news story would be public, permanent, exactly what I wanted. "When?" "Today, if you're available. I can come to you." We met at a coffee shop near my apartment. Amanda Cartwright was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed and professional. She recorded our conversation on her phone after I consented. I told her everything: the debt, the emails, the staged incident, the guardianship petition. I showed her documentation, enough to prove I wasn't making it up, not so much that I gave away everything I had. She took notes and asked follow-up questions. "Have you filed any legal action against them?" "Not yet." "Why not?" "Because I want them to understand what they've lost first. Money can be recovered. Reputation can't." She raised an eyebrow. "That sounds like revenge." "It is." She smiled slightly. "I'll need to reach out to your son and daughter-in-law for comment." "I expected you would." The article went online Monday morning. The headline: Local couple accused of elder financial abuse and failed guardianship scheme. It was thorough, fair. It included Derek and Vanessa's denials. Vanessa claimed I was mentally unstable and making false accusations. Derek said it was a family matter being resolved privately. But it also included the judge's denial of their petition, quotes from Dr. Patel about my cognitive health, and excerpts from the emails I'd provided. The comments section filled up within hours. Most people were sympathetic to me. A few questioned whether the accusations were true, but the damage was done. By Tuesday, Derek's employer, a mid-size financial services firm, had placed him on administrative leave pending an internal review. The firm's compliance department apparently didn't like the optics of an employee being publicly accused of financial elder abuse. By Wednesday, Vanessa had resigned from the hospital fundraising committee. No explanation given, but the implication was clear. I monitored it all from my apartment, icing my knee and waiting for their next move. It came Thursday evening. Someone knocked on my door. Hard. Insistent. I checked the peephole. Derek. I opened the door but left the chain on. What do you want? He looked terrible. I need to talk to you. So talk. Can I come in? No. He sagged against the doorframe. You're destroying us. You tried to destroy me first. I didn't want this. Any of this. It was Vanessa's idea, and I went along with it because I was desperate, but I never... You never what? Never filed the guardianship petition? Never let her bring a stranger into your house to scare me? Never stood by while she planned to have me declared incompetent? I tried to stop her. Not hard enough. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I lost my job. I know. Vanessa's talking about divorce. She says I'm weak, that I ruined everything. You did. His face crumpled. For a second, he looked like a kid again, lost, confused, looking for someone to fix things. What do you want from me? He asked. You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I listened to her. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you. I'm sorry I'm such a goddamn disappointment. I don't want your apology. Then what? I want you to understand what you did. You didn't just try to take my money. You tried to take my autonomy, my dignity, my right to make my own decisions. You were willing to have me locked up, medicated, declared incompetent, also you could pay off your debts. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what that means? He didn't answer. Go home, Derek. I don't have a home anymore. Vanessa kicked me out. I'm staying at a motel. That's not my problem. I closed the door. He knocked again. Dad, please. I didn't answer. He knocked a few more times, then gave up. I heard his footsteps recede down the hallway. I sat down on the couch and stared at the wall. I should have felt satisfied, victorious. They'd lost everything. Derek's job, Vanessa's social standing, their marriage, their reputation. But I felt hollow. Derek was my son. I'd raised him. I'd been there for every birthday, every school event, every milestone. And somewhere along the way, he turned into someone I didn't recognize, someone who could look at his own father and see nothing but a resource to exploit. I didn't know how to reconcile those two versions of him, the boy I'd loved and the man who'd betrayed me. Friday morning, my lawyer called. I wanted to give you a heads up, Patricia said. Vanessa Brennan's attorney reached out. They want to settle. Settle what? I haven't filed suit. They're worried you will. They're offering a formal written apology and an agreement not to pursue any further guardianship actions in exchange for your agreement not to pursue legal action or further publicity. No. You should think about it. A settlement gives you guaranteed protection. I don't need their protection. They can't touch me now. Mr. Brennan, I said no. I hung up. I wasn't interested in settlements. I wasn't interested in apologies. I wanted them to lose everything they valued, the same way they'd tried to take everything from me. And I wasn't done yet. The final piece came together on Saturday. I'd spent the past week digging deeper into Derek's financial situation. The debt I'd already documented was bad enough, but there was more. Much more. He'd taken out a second mortgage on the house without Vanessa's knowledge. He'd forged her signature on the loan documents. The mortgage was now 3 months past due, and the bank had initiated foreclosure proceedings. I found the foreclosure notice in public records, filed 2 weeks ago. Derek and Vanessa had 30 days to cure the default or vacate the property. They were going to lose the house, the carefully curated colonial in the suburb that tries too hard, the symbol of their success and stability, and Vanessa didn't know yet. I could have walked away at this point. Let the foreclosure proceed naturally, let them destroy themselves without any further involvement from me. But that felt too passive, too slow. I wanted Vanessa to know. I wanted her to understand exactly how thoroughly Derek had betrayed her, the same way she'd betrayed me. So I sent her the foreclosure documents, anonymously, via email, with a simple subject line. You should know. Then I waited. She called Derek at 11 a.m. I know because Derek called me 20 minutes later, hysterical. What did you do? I told her the truth. You sent her the foreclosure notice. How did you even get that? Public records. She's losing her mind. She's threatening to report me for fraud. She's going to press charges. Good. Dad, please. You have to talk to her. Tell her it was a mistake, that I was trying to fix things. It wasn't a mistake. You committed fraud. You forged her signature. I was desperate. So was I when you tried to have me declared incompetent. You didn't care about my desperation. I'm your son. That's supposed to mean something? Silence. Then quieter. I guess not. He hung up. An hour later, Vanessa called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. You vindictive bastard, she said. No preamble, just fury. Good afternoon, Vanessa. You're happy now? You've destroyed everything. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped you from destroying me. Derek's going to jail. Probably. And you don't care. Why would I? He tried to steal my life. Now he's facing consequences. This isn't over. You're going to what? File another petition? Hire another attorney? Stage another incident? She was breathing hard. I could hear it over the phone. You can't do anything to me anymore, I continued. You have no credibility, no leverage, no options. You're losing your house, your reputation, your marriage, and everyone knows why. You think you've won. I know I have. She laughed. It was a bitter, jagged sound. You're alone. Your son hates you. You've alienated your entire family. Was it worth it? Yes. You're pathetic. And you're done. I hung up. I sat there for a long time thinking about her question. Was it worth it? I'd lost my relationship with Derek, maybe permanently. I'd exposed intimate family problems to public scrutiny. I'd spent weeks consumed by anger and planning revenge instead of moving on with my life. But I'd also protected myself. I'd stopped them from taking my autonomy, my assets, my dignity. I'd made sure they couldn't hurt me or anyone else the same way again. Was it worth it? Yes. Sunday morning, I received an email from an attorney I didn't recognize. The subject line read, Regarding Vanessa Brennan. I opened it. Mr. Brennan, I represent Vanessa Brennan in her divorce proceedings against Derek Brennan. My client has requested that I reach out to you regarding potential testimony. She believes you have documentation that would support her claim of financial fraud and misrepresentation by her husband. If you are willing to provide testimony or documentation, please contact my office at your earliest convenience. I read it twice. Vanessa wanted my help. She wanted me to testify against Derek, to provide evidence of his fraud, to help her divorce him and escape with whatever assets she could salvage. It was ironic. She'd tried to use the legal system against me, and now she was asking me to use it against Derek. I thought about it for approximately 30 seconds. Then I replied, No, handle your own mess. Monday afternoon, Derek called again. Vanessa's attorney wants me to agree to a dissolution that gives her everything. The house, well, what's left of it after foreclosure, the cars, the retirement accounts. Everything. Okay. I can't afford an attorney to fight it. Then don't fight it. Dad, I have nothing. No job, no money, no place to live. You did this to yourself. I know, but I'm still your son. Doesn't that count for something? I thought about the question, really thought about it. It used to, I said finally. Before you decided I was worth more to you incapacitated than independent. Before you let your wife plan to have me declared incompetent so you could steal my money. Before you chose financial convenience over basic human decency. I made a mistake. You made a series of choices, deliberate, calculated choices, and now you're dealing with the consequences. So you're just going to let me suffer. I'm going to let you take responsibility for what you did. He was quiet for a moment. Then, I hate you. I know. He hung up. I set the phone down and looked out the window. It was a clear day. Cold, but bright. I felt tired. Not physically. My knee was healing well, and I was almost off the crutch completely. But emotionally exhausted. Wrung out. I'd spent weeks consumed by this. Planning, documenting, executing revenge. And now it was done. Derek and Vanessa were destroying each other. Their marriage was over. Their finances were in ruins. Their reputations were shredded. I'd won. But winning felt lonelier than I'd expected. The fundraiser incident had been 3 weeks ago. The article had been published 2 weeks ago. The foreclosure notice had been delivered 10 days ago. And tonight, I was going to finish it. I'd spent the past week monitoring their unraveling from a distance. Derek had moved out of the motel and into a friend's basement. Vanessa had hired a forensic accountant to trace every dollar Derek had lost or hidden. Their divorce proceedings were turning vicious. But there was one loose end. One final thing I needed to address. The person Vanessa had brought to the house that night. The stranger who'd stood in my doorway while she whispered, "Just make it look natural." I'd never figured out who he was. The smart lock log showed a guest code, but no name, no identification. But I had suspicions. There'd been a name in Vanessa's deleted emails, someone she'd referred to only as Jay in most messages, but once, just once, she'd slipped and written Jason. I'd searched through Derek's contacts and found a Jason tenant, the same Jay tenant who'd given Derek a personal loan at an outrageous interest rate. I'd done some digging. Jason tenant had a record. Nothing violent, but fraud adjacent. Forgery. Identity theft. He'd served 18 months in a minimum security facility 5 years ago. He was exactly the kind of person Vanessa would use for something she couldn't afford to have traced back to her. I found his address through a skip tracing service. He lived in a rundown apartment complex on the east side of town. I drove there Tuesday evening. The complex was exactly what I expected. Peeling paint, a broken playground equipment, cars on blocks in the parking lot. I found his unit, second floor, corner apartment. The door was slightly warped, and loud music bled through the thin walls. I knocked. The music cut off. Footsteps. The door opened a crack. Chain still attached. Jason Tennant was in his mid-30s, tall and lean, with a neck tattoo and suspicious eyes. "Yeah?" "We need to talk about Vanessa Brennan." His expression didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten on the doorframe. "Don't know her." "Yes, you do. She paid you to come to her house 3 weeks ago, Friday night. You were supposed to help her stage an incident involving me." He started to close the door. I put my hand against it. "I'm not here to threaten you," I said. "I just want information." "I don't know what you're talking about." "She gave you a guest code for the smart lock. You entered the house at 10:47 p.m. You left at 11:52. What was she paying you to do?" He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. "You're the old man." "Yes?" "She said you were confused, helpless." "I'm not." He looked me up and down, reassessing. "You got balls coming here." "I want to know what she asked you to do." He considered. Then he unhooked the chain and opened the door wider. "Come in." The apartment was small and cluttered. Fast food containers on the coffee table, clothes piled on a chair. It smelled like stale cigarette smoke and cheap air freshener. Jason gestured to the couch. I sat. He stayed standing, arms crossed. "She wanted me to scare you," he said. "Make it look like you'd had some kind of episode. Confusion, panic, maybe a fall. Nothing that would actually hurt you, just enough to get you hospitalized and evaluated." "How much did she pay you?" $5,000, half up front, half when it was done." "But you didn't do it." "I was going to. But then her husband came home early and she freaked out. Told me to leave, paid me the other half anyway, probably to keep me quiet." "Do you still have the money?" He laughed again. "Hell no. Spent it the next day." "Did she record anything? Photos, videos, proof that you were there?" "Not that I saw. She was real careful about that. Didn't want anything tying back to her." I nodded. "One more question. If this goes public, if you're asked to testify about what happened, would you?" He shrugged. "Depends. What's in it for me?" "Immunity from prosecution. Possibly a financial settlement if Vanessa ends up in civil court." "She can afford a settlement?" "Not anymore. But her divorce attorney might be interested in your testimony." He thought about it. "Yeah, okay. If it's worth my time, I'll talk." I stood. "I'll be in touch." I left and drove home. I had what I needed now. Confirmation of Vanessa's intent. A witness who could testify to the plan. It was more than enough. Wednesday morning, I sent an email to Vanessa's divorce attorney. Subject line: additional evidence of fraud. In the body, I wrote, "I have a witness who can testify that Vanessa Brennan paid him $5,000 to stage a medical incident involving her father-in-law. The witness is willing to provide testimony in exchange for immunity and consideration in any settlement. Contact me for details." I attached Jason Tennant's contact information and hit send. Then I waited. The attorney called me within 2 hours. "Mr. Brennan, I received your email. Can you elaborate on what you're alleging?" I explained the whole thing. The night of the incident, the smart lock logs, Jason's testimony, everything. The attorney was quiet for a moment. This is explosive. If it's true, it could completely change the terms of the divorce. It's true. I'll need to depose the witness, and I'll need your testimony as well. I'm willing to provide it. Thank you. This is incredibly helpful. I hung up and sat back. It was done. Vanessa had tried to use me as a pawn in her scheme to solve Derek's financial problems. Now I was using her own actions to ensure she lost everything in the divorce. It was symmetry. Perfect, brutal symmetry. Thursday evening, Vanessa called me. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear her reaction. Good evening, Vanessa. You told my attorney about Jason. I provided relevant information. You're trying to destroy me. I'm trying to make sure you face consequences for what you did. I didn't do anything. You hired someone to come into your home and stage a medical emergency involving me. You paid him $5,000. You plan to use the incident to justify an emergency guardianship petition. That's not... He's willing to testify, under oath, in front of a judge. She was breathing hard again, angry, desperate. Why are you doing this? She asked. You already won. Derek's destroyed. I'm losing everything. Why do you need to keep going? Because you need to understand what you did. I understand. No, you don't. You think this is about money, about assets, about who gets what in a divorce settlement. Isn't it? No, it's about consequences. You tried to take my autonomy, my dignity, my right to control my own life, and you did it coldly, calculatedly, without a single moment of hesitation or regret. I was trying to help Derek. You were trying to help yourself. Derek was just your excuse. She didn't respond. You wanted to make me helpless, I continued. You wanted to turn me into a problem you could solve by taking away my rights. And now you're the one who's helpless. You're the one facing legal consequences, financial ruin, public humiliation. You're the one with no control. I get it. I hope so, because this is what it feels like to be on the other side. I hung up. Friday afternoon, Derek called one last time. Vanessa's attorney is going after everything. They're claiming fraud, emotional distress, conspiracy. They're going to take me for everything I'm worth, which is nothing, but still. I know. And you're helping them. Yes. Why? She's just as guilty as I am. She's the one who planned everything. I know, and she's facing consequences too. But you're making it worse for me. You made it worse for yourself. He was quiet. Then, I wish I'd never listened to her. I wish you'd been a better son. He hung up. I set the phone down and looked around my apartment. It was quiet, empty, and just me and my thoughts. I'd won. Completely. Utterly. Derek was broken. Vanessa was broken. Their marriage was over. Their finances were destroyed. Their reputations were ruined. I'd taken everything from them that they'd tried to take from me. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just emptiness. I'd spent weeks planning this. Weeks consumed by anger and the need for revenge. And now that it was done, I didn't know what to do with myself. I thought about calling someone, a friend, a former colleague, anyone who could fill the silence. But I didn't. I just sat there, alone, in the apartment I'd fought so hard to keep control of. Saturday morning, I received an email from Vanessa's divorce attorney. Mr. Brennan, we've deposed the witness you referred us to. His testimony is compelling and will be instrumental in the proceedings. Additionally, we've uncovered evidence that Derek Brennan transferred funds from joint accounts to offshore accounts in an attempt to hide assets. We're filing an emergency motion to freeze all remaining accounts and pursue recovery. Thank you again for your assistance. I read it twice. Derek had tried to hide money. Even now, even after everything, he was still trying to cheat the system, still trying to come out ahead. He deserved everything that was coming to him. Sunday, I went for a walk. My knee was strong enough now that I didn't need the crutch anymore. Just a slight limp that would fade with time. The weather was cold but clear. I walked through the park near my apartment, watching families play with their kids, couples walking their dogs, old men feeding pigeons, normal people, living normal lives, not consumed by revenge or legal battles or family betrayal. I envied them. Monday morning, Patricia called. I wanted to give you an update. Vanessa's attorney is moving forward with the fraud claims. They're also pursuing criminal charges against Derek for the forged mortgage documents. Good. And they've asked if you'd be willing to provide victim impact testimony if the case goes to trial. Yes. Are you sure? It'll be public. Difficult. I'm sure. She paused. You've done a thorough job of making sure they face consequences. I hope it's given you some peace. It hasn't. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. I got what I wanted. They can't hurt me anymore. That's something. We hung up. Tuesday evening, I received a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. I'm leaving town. I can't stay here anymore. Everyone knows what I did. I can't get a job. I can't fix this. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry for everything. I know that doesn't matter to you, but I needed to say it. Goodbye. I read it 3 times. Then I deleted it. Wednesday, I went back to work. My first consulting job in 2 months. A hotel chain needed an evaluation of their emergency exit systems. It felt good to focus on something concrete, something that had right and wrong answers, clear solutions. I spent the day walking through hallways, checking doors, reviewing fire suppression systems. Normal work, useful work. When I got home that evening, I felt more like myself than I had in weeks. Thursday, Vanessa's divorce was finalized. I saw the notice in the public records. She was awarded the house, what was left after foreclosure, the cars, and half of what remained in their retirement accounts. Derek was ordered to pay restitution for the forged mortgage and faced potential criminal prosecution. It was over. Friday night, I sat in my apartment and thought about what came next. I'd spent so much time fighting them, planning, executing, destroying. And now there was nothing left to fight. Just my life, my work, my future. I thought about Derek's text, the one I'd deleted. He'd apologized. He'd said goodbye. Part of me, a small, stubborn part, wondered if I should have responded, if I should have offered some kind of reconciliation. But the larger part of me knew the truth. He'd made his choices. I'd made mine. And there was no going back. Saturday morning, I received a phone call from the hospital fundraising committee. Mr. Brennan, this is Caroline Hughes. I'm the new chair of the gala committee. I wanted to reach out personally to apologize for how you were treated at our event last month. We've reviewed the situation, and we believe we made an error in judgment. We'd like to invite you to our spring fundraiser as a guest of honor. I was surprised. Why? Because your story matters. Elder financial abuse is a serious issue, and we want to use our platform to raise awareness. We'd like to feature your experience, with your permission, as part of our program. I thought about it. I'll consider it. Thank you. I'll send you more information. Sunday, I went to Dr. Patel for a follow-up appointment. How's the knee? She asked. Almost back to normal. And how are you? Mentally, emotionally? Tired, she nodded. Understandable. You've been through a lot. I have. Do you feel like you got what you needed? Resolution? I thought about the question. I got justice. I don't know if that's the same thing. It rarely is. Monday morning, I woke up early and made coffee. I sat at my kitchen table and looked out the window at the city waking up. I thought about Derek, about Vanessa, about everything that had happened, and I realized something. I'd won. I'd destroyed them. I'd made sure they faced consequences for what they'd tried to do to me. But winning hadn't made me whole. It had just made me even. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was all I'd ever get. I finished my coffee and got ready for work. I had a new project starting today. A corporate campus that needed a full security audit. Normal work, useful work, my work. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. The past was behind me. The future was ahead. And for the first time in months, I was ready to move forward. Not happy, not satisfied, not at peace, but ready. And that would have to be enough.